Regina B, aka Regina Berlinette, is back with another video. Finally, for a minute there, my life got really hectic. I signed up to do some things that I just did not have the time nor the energy to do. But God loves a trier. I gave it a try. I realized that I'm really out of infant baby zone because I signed up to watch a 6-month-old, and I just realized that I just don't have the time, and it's just overwhelming for me. It was really overwhelming. And so I had to step out of that situation. The blessing in that is I realized that I needed to revisit my cognitive behavioral therapy workbook. And I'm realizing that I don't think that's a workbook that it should be like one and done. So I completed it, I put it down. And with this experience in this situation, it helped me realize that this is something I need to continue to go back to, especially the negative thought patterns. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning of like the daily activities and challenging myself to, do something that makes, that it has a level of discomfort to it, because I've already been doing that. Like since I've uploaded a video, I've done races. I just recently finished the color run, hence the hat. But I've done like 3 or 4 races, which really challenged my anxiety and my social anxiety. And I ended up pushing through it and having a great time. So I'm definitely not gonna go back to, listing 5 different things to do, or, continuing to do like the daily activity chart that we were doing. But I am going to go back and review with you today, week 4, negative thought patterns. So I'll give you a quick rundown, of what happened and why I feel like it's important for me to revisit different parts of this book. Like I said, I recently signed up and thought that I could be helpful while earning a little extra cash to watch a 6-month-old. I'm like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, the other kids are at school for majority of the day, sure. So I've been doing it about 2 months now, and at the end of this month, I will no longer be doing it. But I realized that it was overwhelming, and the couple that I'm dealing with, one of the persons really triggered me, really triggered that narcissistic abuse trauma within me, because that person was definitely exhibiting narcissistic behavior. And I had to realize that it wasn't actually personally towards me. It obviously maybe was just towards the spouse or whatever. I had to realize it wasn't really a personal attack on me, but this person really did just want their own way, wanted things to go their own way, which was very triggering. And once that triggered me, I think it got me into a negative headspace, because again, I thought that it was like a personal attack on me and on different requests that I had made. As far as like, can you be sure to be here at this time? Because this was the agreed upon time that me and my family member had discussed, which you weren't even originally a part of. So with that being said, I started to feel anxiety again, and just all around the situation. Anxiety when I knew the baby would be dropped off. Anxiety when I knew the baby would be picked up. And that other person involved basically refused to show up at the time that I had requested for this individual to show up. So that's what ended up triggering me. But again, I don't believe it was a personal attack on me. I mean, obviously it was if you didn't show up when I asked you to, but I think it was just this person wanting their own way. So anyway, what ended up happening is I made the decision. I got my nails done and they're so pretty, and this one broke, just to interrupt. And it broke, it was a good cause. We went bowling. We took our children bowling. And so I knew once I decided that I was going, that a nail was going to break, because I'm competitive and I don't play that. But anyway, but I'm gonna go get it fixed like today or tomorrow. So anyway, I realized that I was gonna have to make the decision to let my family member know that I would not be able to watch their baby full time going forward. Now, I'm not a person where I would just leave my family member in the lurch, especially since I was doing this to try to help them not spend so much money, because sending an infant to daycare these days will run you a good $1,600 to $1,800 if you want them to go somewhere good. So I knew that I was going to text them and let them know like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And so that made me feel anxiety, because I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, there's the I'm letting someone down, you know, I'm hurting them. They're gonna be angry with me. They're gonna like talk bad about me amongst themselves and to other people. Like all these negative thought patterns. And so, mind you, I don't realize that I'm actually in the negative thought pattern these last few days, from Friday until now, which today is Monday, April 25th. So, and hi again, I've missed you guys so much. So I'm glad that I'm gonna be able to get back to doing these. But, so, you know, I informed via text message on Friday in the evening, because when the baby was dropped off, my family member was running late, just so happened on Friday. And so they had to like rush out, and they had a 7 o'clock meeting that they had to get to, which I was like, okay, that kind of works in my favor, because that saves me the awkward conversation or the awkwardness of just blunt, you know, it blubbing out of my mouth, you know, however it comes out. So I composed a text message, you know, I said, really considering everything, I don't think I'm gonna be able to handle all of the children full time when my children, when school ends for the summer, which is going to be at the end of May. I said, I don't think I'm gonna be able to handle all of the children and being able to watch, you know, your baby full time. Obviously I used his name. I said, you know, even now it's becoming a little bit overwhelming for me, and I just didn't expect, you know, for that to happen, but I'm not gonna be able to watch him full time. You know, that's kind of like a snippet of what I said. I, you know, went into more detail. And so my family member texted back and was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. We'll, you know, we'll figure something out. And so I'm in that negative headspace. So I'm like, oh goodness. You know, that's simple. Okay, thanks for letting me know. We're going to work something out. I took that and you know, I'm getting my nails done, and it was Friday when they responded. And I was all anxious after I sent it. Like I put my phone in focus, like do not disturb, because I'm like, I don't want to know what they're gonna say. Like building myself up into this negative headspace, this anxiety that's totally unnecessary. And so long story short, that was the text message. So obviously I'm already in that negative headspace. So I'm spinning. I'm going back and forth with also feeling guilty. Like, oh, I feel guilty that I had to tell her that I couldn't do it. But you know, I would talk back to that negative thought, because I was like, no, this is just something that you can't handle. And the biggest letdown would be if you let yourself down by continuing to do something that you know is overwhelming you and stressing you and causing you anxiety. So that guilty thought, I was able to deal with that. But then I kept going back to like that simple, okay, thank you, we will work something out. It just was hopping off the phone like hostile. Fast forward to this morning, comes, drops the baby off. My family member is in such a positive headspace. Again, saying thank you, you know, I appreciate you letting me know so far in advance, giving us time to work something out. We're gonna start looking up different daycares to send the baby to. And, you know, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. And I know it's overwhelming, you know, dealing with a screaming 6-year-old, and I mean, dealing with a screaming 6-month-old and everything else you have going on. Very understanding, very positive, very reaffirming, very validating. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I got that completely wrong. So as I'm thinking like, Lord, you know, I'm humbled, like I got that wrong. I'm like, wow. So I'm praying and I'm thinking about it. And so something comes to me that's like, why don't you Google, why do people always think of the worst case scenario, or always, you know, the worst case scenario basically is what I Googled. And so the first thing was very simple. The first website says something like, you just don't want to be caught off guard again. Which is really true. Like, I don't want to be caught off guard by, you know, upsetting this family member who is very close to me, losing that relationship, losing the relationship with the baby. Especially, I've developed a bond, my children developed a bond, and so it's triggering that no contact, you know, getting ghosted, you know, by my mom. And so it's triggering that silent treatment and that, you know, the punishment that comes from that when people just stop talking to you. And so, you know, that was triggering. So then as I scroll, I click on this one, and as they're talking about negative thought patterns and what it is and what type of mental illness it is, it says the best therapy for it is dun, 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 dun. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy. So then it's almost like that bell went off, and it was like, oh, I need to go revisit negative thought patterns. And so I'm gonna go through that really, really quickly and just highlight. I'm not gonna go through the story, but basically this was week 4, breaking negative thought patterns. And so he always would start, as you guys know, go back and watch some of the other videos, but he always starts with one of his therapy sessions to help you understand what we're going to be working on and what that looks like in a therapy setting. And so this was Alex, and Alex was a mom, and she was beating herself up because she was struggling at work, and she was struggling as a mom, and she just thought that she was doing a horrible job, and she would tell herself things like, I don't do anything good for my kids. So that is basically where he's gonna help her to see that she's really having these unhelpful negative thoughts. So over here is where I did some highlighting. And so it says unhelpful thoughts. Consider all the ways thinking is helpful. We can plan the future, consider our past actions, evaluate others' motives. It says when our thoughts are a good enough fit with reality, they serve us well. And then what I highlighted is our minds can also create thoughts that do not accurately reflect reality. And it says we make predictions that are wrong. I did that. We misunderstand someone's intent. I did that through the text message. And we misread a situation. Check, check, check. But it says we all make errors in our thinking. And then he says, think of a time when you thought or believed something that turned out to be verifiably false, and describe it in the space below. So I just described that whole situation. And then it's, I don't know if you can see that, it says label errors in thinking. And I'm not gonna read all that, but errors in thinking, there's irrational, dysfunctional, bias, and distorted thinking. And I highlighted the ones that, especially in this situation, I feel were true, which it was just irrational to think that they or my family member would not be understanding of me saying, hey, I thought that I could do this, but I can't. It actually is overwhelming. You know, biased. I was being totally biased. You know, maybe, yeah, the other person involved was being, you know, a little narcissistic, but I was biased just because of my childhood experiences and my childhood trauma, and then distorted. It doesn't accurately reflect reality. It just didn't. So then it says, oh yes, this is what I really needed to do. I'm gonna print off some more of these worksheets, and I'm gonna do this again, because obviously I need to get back into practicing this, and I need to just have these on deck. And I'm gonna try to set a reminder in my phone to just check in with myself, and just, you know, maybe midday or at the end of the day, ask myself, like, have you had any negative thought patterns that you need to address, and do this worksheet. But as you can see here, it says the event, the thought, and the emotion. And then it says the evidence for my thought, and then it says the evidence against my thought. And then it has you go on here, and it says based on the evidence you reviewed, how accurate is the thought you had, and how would you modify the thought to make it fit better with reality? And I feel like for me, I wasn't having an accurate thought at all. Once I started thinking about it and once I referred back to this book. And then how I would modify it next time is just to say, remind myself that not everything you think is true. And remind myself of the scripture that I was reminded of today, which is, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And if I don't know it to be true, then it's not. If I don't know for a fact it's true, if I don't know for a fact that I've upset someone, or that, you know, someone's gonna be upset by a decision that I made, or I don't know that the intent behind the text message was to just be short and like, we'll think of something. You know, why would I imagine it to be, we'll think of something, instead of like, okay, thank you, we'll think of something. You know, so again, if I don't know it to be true, then it is likely not true. It is a thought, it is a theory, and what is that thought and theory based on? Is it based on a childhood trauma? Is it based on a previous bad experience? You know, so I really needed that. And then it says, oh, right here, seeing the positive. He said with Alex, he said, we talked for a while about the mind's ability to see what it wants to and ignore the rest. This is so true, even when it's right in front of us. Then scrolling down, I underlined this one. It says, if our thoughts are biased in a negative direction, we are already overlooking some relevant information. If we're not careful, we can allow this bias to dominate our efforts to break negative thought patterns, which defeats the purpose. So my bias did almost dominate my efforts to break that. And I'm so glad. I'm glad through prayer. I'm glad through self-reflection. I'm glad through just the curiosity and the Googling that it brought me back here to say, oh, okay, we need to revisit breaking negative thought patterns, because you just, you know, stumbled backwards a little bit, but that's okay. It's just a reminder you need to come back. So then a big part of this practice is to grow toward accepting our imperfections and not hating ourselves for being fully human. So then he goes on to ask, is it a catastrophe? Catastrophizing. But what about thoughts that aren't unrealistic? For example, if you fear you'll blush when you speak in a meeting, or you have a panic attack on a plane, there might be a reasonably high chance these things will happen. Often in these cases, our error lies in how bad we think the outcome is or would be. Our minds can treat an awkward, uncomfortable, or disappointing situation as if it's a complete catastrophe. And that is also what I did, because I really thought that the reason I interpreted that text as negative was because I was imagining that it would be worse than it would be. Like, the relationship would completely come to an end. This person would ghost me, give me the silent treatment because I told them I can't watch their baby anymore. Which, where does that thought come from? Where does that belief? Oh, my childhood trauma and my experience with parental narcissistic abuse. So I was triggered. So let's go. What else did I underline? I didn't underline anything here. And then I just went ahead and came back to this worksheet, and just remembering that it is important to come back to this. And it's a practice, just like, you know, with running, it's a practice. Meditation is a practice. Spirituality is a practice. Prayer is a practice. Life is a practice. And so because this work is so in-depth, and I finished it and I was like, woo. And when I finished it, y'all, I was like rocking it out for those weeks afterwards, leading up until now. You guys will have to, I have to look, I believe my last day of doing this was probably about 2 months ago, maybe 2.5, 3 months ago. And so I was like, I finished it the first week. The first 4 weeks was great. I think I slowly was starting to be like, I'm good, you know, I'm being mindful, which I am much better at being mindful. But now I can see that I still need to practice this, because when I'm triggered, I was triggered by someone's behavior. And so a lot of the work that I did in this, I just didn't even think about to do it. I just went into protect mode, or like what I Googled when it said you just don't want to be caught off guard again. And that was true. But then me not wanting to be caught off guard again, and this person's narcissistic behavior led me to going back to some of my old habits and my old practices of my negative thought patterns. So I'm actually grateful for the experience. I'm grateful that it happened, because again, it was just a great reminder that I need to go back through this, and I need to make sure that I practice week 4's breaking the negative thought patterns, and that I need to do those worksheets, and that I also need to check in with myself and say, hey, are you, you know, this was the first situation really since completing this book that really made me feel anxious, and that really made me go back into negative thought thinking. I mean, I do it from time to time, but not on the scale where it causes me such anxiety. And so I'm glad for the experience. I'm glad for that situation. And I just want you to know it's okay if we finish this book, or if you finish therapy, or if you finish something really, really awesome and you feel like, yeah, I did it, but then you stumble back a little bit. That's okay. Those setbacks are just a setup for your comeback. So that setback for me was just a setup for me to remind myself, come back to this. You know, come back to this, continue to practice it. You can't just do something one time and sit it down and feel like, boom, I got it. I got this. Especially when negative thought patterns has been a part of my life for a really long time. Like, it's gonna take more than just doing this once for 7 weeks and thinking that, oh, I got all the practices down. Like the planned activities, yeah. The facing the fears, as far as social anxiety, yeah. Like, because it's like, no, I want to do things that I want to enjoy. And so now that's a fun challenge for me, and it's a rewarding challenge. So even though I may feel a little anxious, I'm still like, oh, I'm going to do it. And I paid for this race. I know that there's going to be people here, you know, just absorb the energy and absorb the environment. This color run was the first race that I ever did. And so to return to it again this year was just great. And that race was on April 2nd. And so it was great. But yeah, it's always good to revisit. I'm going to be revisiting this. I'm gonna go ahead and do more videos of just snippets of this. If I end up doing any of the worksheets, which I'm gonna print off, I will share them with you. But you know, thank you guys so much for continuing to watch my videos. I've noticed that some of my old videos are getting views, so that's really, really cool. Thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. I got more views than subscribers. So definitely go ahead and subscribe. Click the little button to be notified whenever I upload these. They will become more consistent and persistent, as one YouTuber says that I enjoy to watch. But yeah, definitely subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed the content. And I just want to say thank you so, so much for watching this video, especially if you've made it this far. I really appreciate it. I hope something that I've said has helped you in some small way, whether it be inspire, motivate, make you question some of the ways that you think, make you even interested in trying this book. So until next time, peace.